Hi, this is Anna Imagination, and I am the ethical asshole. This is your host, the salty bitch. So, I was sitting there sleeping this morning, and I woke up. And when I wake up, I'm way out. I'm all the way zoomed out, and I'm looking at everything as a whole. That's how I always wake up. Does anyone else do that? I'm really curious. So I always wake up completely zoomed out as far away as I can, and then I zoom in. And it's in those moments of omniscience where I'm looking at the big picture that I have the most clarity. It's probably why I have the most clarity at that time, is because I'm zoomed out. And I'm thinking about philosophy, how I experienced it, and everything in the world today. And I just went, coaching is got to be the biggest scam going on right now. And no one knows about it. But it's one of those passive scams. It's not a scam where there's malicious intent. It's you got the blind leading the blind. And I thought about, in general, what philosophy does and teaches. And I've been watching this for the last 5 years now, where philosophy was like unheard of, and then it started to do this, and then it's doing this, and I'm going, okay, but I really need to step in and be like, we need to talk about what philosophy is, because if it's going to go the same road as the coaching, we really need to sit down and talk about this. Philosophy is a cradle. It is an academic cradle. It is not just a discipline. And if you do not have the cradle, you're not going to understand the disciplines. And I'm looking at how everyone handled the disciplines, and I'm going, oh, please tell me you're not going to handle the cradle the same way. And I know that that's where it's going to go, because data points say so. So between the coaching industry and the educational disaster that is the US government, I'm looking at all of this going, what the hell? I know what the hell is, because this is all I studied for the last 40 years. So I'm going to break this down. Philosophy is an experience. It is not a spectator sport. In fact, academia, and this is what you learn in proper philosophy, is an experience. It is not a spectator sport. When you start studying physics, you actually pick up a violin, or you sit down at a piano and you play. You want to learn physics, you play a piano. You want to learn physics, you study music theory. And this is what you learn in philosophy. This is what you learn in Plato's philosophy, is how to experience the disciplines. You are never supposed to ever sit down in a classroom. It doesn't exist. There were two types of classrooms when I was a student in school. There were the classrooms where you sit down at a desk and the teacher stands at the front and they lecture you while they stand over you. That is narcissistic abuse. The other types of teachers I had were the band room, the music room, and the art room. And the philosophical reading area space that I visited. And in those spaces, that's where I did my learning. It was a free-for-all, where you get in there and you pick up whatever instrument you want and you do. Now, everyone there loved music. So there was no, in most cases, the teacher did not need to do anything, because everyone was there because they loved music. So they did it. They just did it. And what's going on is you got students who don't want to learn. They're not students. You have not students in the schoolroom. That's what's going on. They are not students, because students are there of their free will and they value education. So that's the first thing. You've got life learners. They value education. They are students. So right off, I'm going to tell you where the industry for coaching is really fucked up, is they are treating students like non-students. So non-students are the people who don't know what education is for. They don't know who they are. They're just trying to survive their parents when they get home. They got a 6 to 8 hour respite while they get away from the abusive assholes that are their parents. And now they're at school and they're just happy that they're not being beat up in that moment. And they don't know who they are, what they're doing. They have no minds. And in most cases, they're just going through the motions because they don't know what to do. And these are your not students. They have no fucking business being in school. They don't. These people need to be in a different location that does not exist in our culture. The students are in the right place. I was a student. So you put me in a school, I got it. Get out of my way. I got this handled. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I know where I want to be. And this is why college for a lot of people is so much better, is because as soon as you get to college, everyone there is a student. College has 100% university. In academic discipline in elementary schools, you have the not students merged with the students. And this is where teachers are just so uneducated. Oh, the irony that they don't know that they have not students in their classrooms. And instead of thinking of a solution, because they don't know how to problem solve this, they just follow the instruction of everyone else and they just tolerate it. So now it's and this is where you're going to get a lot of wise asses going, oh, well, what are we supposed to do? I don't know. What we're going to do is those not students need a different kind of education. And this is what the educational system has failed us all on. So the students who are not students require a different kind of education, a very, very different kind of education. They need a home and love education because they're not getting it at home. And that's the problem. These are the people who go on to either be having addiction problems, or they end up with criminal problems, or they end up never aspiring to anything. And they settle for the lowest job they can find because they just don't know who they are. They are lost students. We're going to call them lost. And then you've got lost angry and lost passive. And there you go. Now, everything's a spectrum. Do not think black and white. So you're going to have lost passive and lost angry students, but they're not students. They're just lost. And they need a completely different education. They are not ready for academia. They are in need of the ethics and basic home. Over in the student area, these guys are set. They're already doing Platonic philosophy, which is experiencing it. They are having discussions with the teacher. If you have a student who's talking to you and debating with you, oh, they're a student. That's me. That was me. They're the ones who are participating. And it's not participation. They are on the right path of students so that they know how to engage, discuss, ask questions, be inquisitive, and they know how to educate themselves. You want those students. Everyone does. And every now and then you get one and the teacher is like, oh my God, yes. But the teachers have no idea what's going on with those students and why they're different from the others. And this is why. Is because the students who love learning are mentally healthier and they have reached the ethical stage of 7. That is why. They have reached the ethical stage of 2. That is why. Ethical stage 2 and 7, which is really interesting because when you add those numbers together, you get 9. But it's even more interesting because if you look at what's going on a musical scale, it's 2 and 7. And jazz has a lot to say about 2 and 7. Just saying. So I'm sitting here going, wow, the ethics, when they align the exact same way as they do on a musical chord. Oh, you have no idea how much my brain is going, good God, do I want to explore that? But I haven't yet. So I'm going to calm down. So they have the ethical stages of 2 and 7. And that's what's going on with people who are learners. People who are not learners do not have ethical stages 2 and 7. Nope, they don't. They have ethical stages 3, ethical stage 3, and ethical stage 1. See, and I can hear it now in my head, the little doom in the musical chord over here. And I'm going, interesting. So we got a triad. And over here, we've got a jazz chord. So ethical stages 1 and 3, and that doesn't mean so when you're in 3, it doesn't mean you've learned the third ethic. It means that you're in the trial of the third ethic. It means you've learned self-authority. That's what it means. So the ethical stage 3 has you in the stage of you're supposed to be learning self-regulation, but you've learned a different lesson instead, which is I'm going to take care of myself, get out of my way. You've learned self-authority, but you haven't learned self-regulation. Now that's a dangerous combination. Now, the ethical stage 1 is the I have no idea who I am. I'm waiting for someone to tell me what to do, and they've stalled out. And that's your passive. So the 1s are passive, and the 3s are angers, are aggressives. And there you go. Now, you're not an aggressive if you've got the foundation of 1 and 2. You're only an aggressive if you lack 1 and 2, 1 or 2. If you are at 3 and you lack 1 or 2, you are an aggressive. If you are 1, you're just completely without an identity. You literally had never turned on. Your parents prevented you from turning on. So you got those 2 types of students. And when you look at how they learn differently, and this is why they learn differently, is because the first 3 ethics, the second ethic is the learning ethic. It's literally how to learn in 3 easy steps. And it truly is. This is it. First, you need courage and you need self-nourishment. And then you need to have the self-nourishment and the courage to explore your needs and wants. That's 2. As soon as you do that, oh, you're set. You're in the exploration stage, which is why 2s learn. Now, once you learn this, you learn how to balance the 2, which is self-regulation. And now you're balancing beautifully between your needs and your wants. And this is how you learn. Need, want, need, want, need, want, need, want. I'm good. Now, if you throw scarcity and resource scarcity in here, and now your needs aren't being met because your scarcity has been compromised, or I'm sorry, your resources have been compromised. And because of that, now you're in survival mode. So you don't have the luxury of want because you're in the process of surviving. And this is why you can't regulate, is because you don't have your needs to regulate with your wants. Furthermore, you don't have the luxury of want because you have need because your needs have not been met. So learning is fucking out the window because you've got a bigger priority, which is I need to get my needs in order and I need to get my wants in order. So when you have somebody who doesn't learn, their needs and their wants are not straightened out. You cannot learn if you have needs. It's a fact of life. If you have a problem with resources, then you are not going to learn. So the students who are lost have a problem with resources. They have a resource deficit, and that's why they're not learning. They are surviving. The people who are learning have no resource deficit. Now, you're going to have 2 types of students. You're going to have the student who mom and dad are providing their resources, or the student has figured out how to provide the resources themselves. So the difference between the student who is learning and the student who is not is their resources. The student who is learning is resourceful. The student who is not a student is not resourceful. They have no resources. They are in survival mode because they lack the first ethic, which is why you've got an angry third ethic who never learned that first ethic. So no matter how you cut it, 1 or 3, they never learned resourcefulness, which is the first ethic, self-nourishment. So you see this back and forth. Now, when you step into philosophy, this is already known to the philosopher. So the philosopher would take the students and immediately address do you have your resources? And that's the school that they need. So you have a student who requires the resource school, and then you have the student who requires okay, you've got your resources. Now let's teach you how to learn. And that's the very first thing you do. Now, this is where we get into that DIY learning and DIY healing. DIY is the single most strengthening, most effective thing you could possibly do for yourself. DIY is the epitome of autonomy, empowerment, self-authority, and independence. And those things all together absolutely create. Okay, just a moment. Elizabeth, I need the music on. Could you please turn your sound back up?
It is on.
It is? Why is there no music?
The music plays at random times.
Oh. Drat, I'm having one of those moments where I need like 5 different things going on in the background in order for me to focus, and I'm struggling, and I'm like, "Where's the music? Where's the music?" It's okay. It's just give me a minute. This is me doing some self-care for my subconscious mind. So apparently, yeah, just a minute. I'm just gonna put on this weird song with this weird guy dancing in front of the mirror, who is my newest crush. Okay, there you go. Oh yeah, oh yeah. He goes into his bathroom and he dances and he does weird shit, and it's all the best music from the last 70s, 60s, and 80s, and I'm like, yes, I love this man. Yep, yep. Yep. He is my new crush. Now I got something in the back, so I'm good now. All right, so when you do DIY, you have autonomy, empowerment, self-authority, and independence. And when you do DIY, that gives you proof of concept, which proves to you that you can self-nourish and be your own resource. Now you start that beautiful engine going. And this is what you should be taught. This right here is what you should be learning. And you learn this and you don't need anything else. If you have a teacher step in and they don't teach you this, they are literally, they've got you so when you come to a teacher, you're in a cage. Bottom line, you are in a cage. And you're in that cage until you learn how to get out of the cage and take care of yourself on the outside. But they're not doing that. They keep you in the cage so that you have to stay with them. And there's a lot of people, and this is what I've noticed, is you've got a lot of dependent people who get into the cage and they stay there. They never leave. So you'll have somebody in a cage for 20 years learning from the same person, but they're not really learning because this is not learning. And this is where philosophy steps in, and philosophers know this. Learning is not memorization. And this is the first thing that everyone goes wrong with it, is you've got learning over here that's actually memorization and parroting. And then over here on the other side, you have integrated tuition. Look up the etymology of tuition. Look up the etymology of tuition and look at the archaic definition. Now, I'm going to show you something. You want your integrated tuition. When you get integrated tuition, now you're learning. Now you're learning. Now, there is a how to integrate tuition. And this is what you learn in philosophy. That is what you learn in philosophy. How to integrate tuition. That's how you do it. But no one except philosophers study this. Now, we have a little thing that we do in philosophy, which is great if you go to a philosophy class, but it's not great if you're reading about it in a book. And the reason why is because you got to experience it. So it never got written down. So when they revived philosophy, it was not written down. You had to go through the curriculum, which was outlined, to see it, to find it. No one did. Everyone else used it as a spectator sport, which is never how it was supposed to be. So when you go through the curriculum, you learn integrated tuition. And you learn it so well that you can reverse engineer it and go, oh, this is learning. Because your learning over here is much different than memorization parrots. So the question is how to integrate tuition. What you are doing is scientific method. That's all you're doing is scientific method. Now, I'm going to put here the ethical scientific method. And I think that's a really great way to distinguish the difference between this one and that one, because theirs is a fraction of this one. It is much more than the one that is currently being used. And when you have the ethical scientific method, it is the stages of integrated tuition. That's what people, except scientists, don't know. Is that the scientific method is the stages of integrated tuition. But there is an order of an operation and there is a sequence. Now, you are intuitively already doing it because Mother Nature equips us with this. You are already equipped with this thing. This is the best part. You're already equipped with it. You don't have to do anything. It's done. It's already there. We're just going to teach you how to use what is already there. So the first stage of scientific method is feeling it, which is why music is the first thing on the curriculum. It teaches you how to feel. It's also teaching you physics. So while you're feeling, you're learning physics, all from studying music. Now, listen to music, play music, sing. By the way, that requires courage, which is also your ethic, your first ethic. Now, with the first of all the ethics, I'm all over the place. I'm very, very precise with the ethics until I get to the first ethic. With the first ethic, I'm all over the place, and there is a reason why. The reason why is because the first ethic is the origin ethic. That's why. So the origin ethic is very different than the rest of them. So there's two ethics. The first ethic has two ethics. It's courage and it's self-nourishment. And it's the combination of self-nourishment and courage. Well, it's the self-nourishment that gets you courage, but then you learn courage. But if people try and focus on courage and not self-nourishment, they don't get it. But you don't learn the first ethic until you learn courage. So really, courage is the first ethic, but that's not how you do it. You have to do it with self-nourishment. That is how you do it. So this is where courage is the first ethic, but that's not the how-to. So I hate to say that courage is the first ethic because I've seen people do this where they go focus on courage. You can't do that. That's a consequence. That's the first ethic, but that's not the catalyst. Self-nourishment is the catalyst. You have to become resourceful. Self-nourishment is the catalyst. Courage is the first ethic. But if I say courage, people focus on courage. And it's like, no. So that's why I say self-nourishment courage. And it looks different than all the other ones. And I'm like, I know it's different because it's not showing you the invisible catalyst. And you need that catalyst so you can get to the courage. Because courage, just practicing courage is not how you get courage. You have to do a prerequisite, which is self-nourishment. And that's what everyone has got to learn. So when you have your first stage of the scientific method, you have feeling and then music and then physics. And that's, you want to feel, that's stage one. Do it with music, singing, listening to it, playing it. And I prefer piano because, boy, does that teach you mental diversification. And then physics, look at the physics in music, and you're feeling it regardless. And then courage. Every time you feel music, every time you hear a good jam, and then you just start like moving to it, you're playing with physics. So the second stage is image. It's when the feeling turns into an image. And that is done through art, which is geometry, which is math, which is proportions. And that gives you self-authority. Now, there's one more piece here I really need to like lay down because it's not just that. The other thing you're getting with that is when you are going through and you are learning music, feeling, physics, courage, you are really learning story. So you're getting a story along with it. And the story you are getting with music is progression. It's the science of progression. Image, art, geometry, math, self-authority. This is giving you perspective. It's the science of perspective. In the third one, what you are doing is you are now defining. You've got your feelings, you've got your image. Now you're going to start using words to try and translate into comprehension. So this is where, and this is theater and stage. And what you are doing with this one is synchronicity. That's what you are doing with this. And you are learning self-regulation. And it is the science of synchronicity. There's something else there. I'm missing the science from there. And I'm like, what's the science in it? I remember studying acoustics a lot back then. I just realized all of my mugs are right-handed mugs. And I just realized the reason why they're right-handed is because the majority of the population is right-handed, except there's a good chance that people who are coffee drinkers aren't drinking coffee with their right hand. Because who just sits and drink coffee? And when we do this. So either we are using our dominant hand, which means every cup designer in the world got this backwards. Just saying. Just saying. This is a pet peeve of mine. Pet peeve. And I'm going, you know, they got it backwards, right? Because they assume you're going to pick up your cup with your dominant hand. Who does that? No one does that. I'll tell you why. Because when you're sitting there and you're eating with a fork and you want to drink, do you put your fork down to pick up your... No. The only time you ever use your right hand, if you're right hand dominant, to drink your coffee or anything is if you have nothing in your hand. What are the odds you have nothing in your hand? It pisses me off. So now every time I take a drink, I'm like, you can't see my really clever design. No, you can't. No, you can't. No. I know I can read it, but it's not for me because it's speaking to them, saying your grammar. What? Is it what? Is it what? I'm sorry. I can't hear over sexy man dancing. What? Is it speaking to them? It might be. Probably not because I can't hear them. But it's still implied. So defining theater stage. It would be work. I don't want to say logic because it's not your logic yet. That comes next. What it's doing. This is really interesting. All right, help me, E.B. White. Simplicity. No, not yet. That comes later. It's sculpting. But sculpting we covered in image and art. I'll come back to it. It'll come to me. But I can feel it mathematically is off right there. Like something's mathematically off and I got to dissect it more. So in the next one, you have reading and writing and arithmetic. Now what you are learning here is literally articulation. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, now I got it. That is actually it. You are learning articulation. Yes, now it's articulation is what I was missing for the theater dance. What you are doing with reading and writing is simplifying. You are learning simplification. And then, yeah, dude, he's sexy man dancing. I love him. He's great. Look at him. And okay, so he goes into his bathroom. He's got one of those 3-way mirrors. And look at this guy. This guy's like my new favorite thing in the world. I love him. Like, oh my God. Oh, yesterday? Oh, yeah. And I danced with him. I learned his dances and I dance with him. It's great. I love it. Okay. So, all right. So it would be articulation, but that's what it is. It's articulation with theater dance or with theater stage. Oh, good God. Yes, it's absolutely articulation. Yeah. Oh, I remember. So I remember we were doing this one play. It was The Princess and the Pea. No. Once Upon a Mattress. That was the musical. Once Upon a Mattress. And he comes in, this one character at the very end. It's like he's got one fucking line. The king is silent through the whole thing. He doesn't say a word. And at the very end, there's a prophecy made that the lion will speak when the king will speak when the mouse swallows the lion. So at the very end, the abused prince screams at his narcissistic mother, "Would you shut up?" And that's the mouse swallowing the lion. And the mother can't speak. And she's like, she can't speak. And they're like, oh my God, she can't speak. And the king says, but I can. And boy, have I got a lot to say. And he just opens right up. And it's funny because the whole play, Once Upon a Mattress, the whole play is about narcissism. And so he opens up and he's like, oh, but I can. Now the character, the boy who was playing this character, he had one line, the very first line, and he said, I can. And his mother was the director. Well, she was the assistant director. So she goes, you have got one line. It's the very first line of the play, and you mispronounce it. You come out and you don't say I can. You say I can. I can, you Barbie. Let's not do that. It's I can. So he literally had to go through articulation of can. I can. Oh boy, was that drilled into all of us. I can. wow, we do a lot of articulation in theater. And it's so funny because I've been doing theater for so long, I didn't even process. Oh yeah, articulation, articulation. So the younger you are when you do these, the harder it is to translate them later because you've been doing it for so long. So oh, for me, it would be logic and then it's theater stage. Those are like I did logic and then I did theater and stage and then I did music. That's like the order of operations of my brain. There you go. Logic there. I'm going to write that down. It was logic and then it was theater. And then I did, what did I do next? Oh yeah, I did music. And then after I did music, I did writing. So I reversed engineered the shit out of writing. And when I got to music, well, I didn't have to reverse engineer it because Pythagoras already did that for me. Thanks, Pythagoras. So that's all set. But theater, it's weird. The earlier you are, the younger you are when you do shit, the harder it is to translate it. So you get your reading and you're simplifying. That's what you're doing when you read, is you're learning how to simplify. Thank you, E.B. White. I knew you were in there somewhere. And then after this, you are learning the ethic. As you do this, you are learning the ethic law, self-law, which is probably why I'm so strong with that, is because, yeah, you learn self-law when you write. So you want to learn how to set a boundary? Write according to the laws of grammar. Yes. You have to set your own standard. Yes, you do. And then you have to define your own perimeters. You see, there's 2 dictionaries in the world. There's the Oxford and some other people. I don't know who those other people are because I didn't subscribe to that one. I made this decision a long time ago. When you sit down and decide, I'm going to be an author when I grow up, you got to decide, what's the book going to be? And this is really what it comes down to. Are you going to use an Oxford comma or not? And that's really what it comes down to. That's the only question you have to ask yourself. Are you for the Oxford comma or against it? Do I need to reiterate? So that's really what this comes down to. If you are for the Oxford comma, your fate has been decided for you. You are one of us. And that means you are part of the Oxford Dictionary group. I want to say Cambridge. Is it Cambridge? I don't know anymore. I didn't study it. All I knew is those assholes didn't use the Oxford comma. So I was against them. How dare they? Since when does an and replace a comma? That doesn't even make sense. Oh, no. Hey, in their world, a conjunction is the same thing as a comma. No. So you have to figure out what school of philosophy you are in when it comes to grammar laws. And then you have to uphold the standard. So you put the Oxford Dictionary or the other guys at the pinnacle of your existence, and you bow and you submit to it. And then you pick up the wonderful world of E.B. White and you become his little bitch. This is writing. This is what writing is like. And then you familiarize yourself with the dictionary and etymology and linguistics. And if you really are committed, yes, study logic, because that's coming next. So that is reading, arithmetic, simplification, self-law, and it teaches you storytelling. It teaches you storytelling. It teaches you communication. That's what it teaches you, communication. Mind you, this is the scientific method. So you get feeling, you get image, you define it. And then you get that simplification. You have to simplify it. Oh, that explains it. So simplification goes first, and then you get reading. And then that is the science of breaking it down into simplified, defining definition. And that is the development of story. The next thing you do, by the way, this is still scientific method. This is everything that happens in your intuition. So you have your intuition, and then you have to communicate your intuition to others. That's stage 2. So stage 1 is your intuition. People who get really poor education, who are stunted in their development, in their ethical development, or people who experience trauma, never leave this stage. They're highly intuitive. And then you get stuck there. The next stage is stage 2, which is communication. This is the science and the art of transitioning all of that data into comprehension. So the first one is intuition, and the second stage is comprehension. Now, if you cannot comprehend, if you cannot articulate and do comprehension, that is when they deem you insane because they don't understand you. That's where it comes from. Because they assume you have no logic. You might have logic, but it's your comprehension that's the problem. But they are so illogical that they don't know that you are suffering from a comprehension problem and not a logic problem. When you are abused, they are attacking your logic, which messes with your comprehension, which makes you incomprehensible, and thus you are insane. So says them. But they made you that way. So stage 5 of scientific method is now the logic. You are now putting it in logical order. It's called sequencing. This is where a logic proof begins. And then from the logical proof, what you are doing is you are doing linguistics, you are doing logic, and you are doing first stage of math. After that, this is helping you provide proof, and that is teaching you accountability. Oh, that explains why the world is the way it is, which is the ethic associated with this trial. And then, after you learn accountability, you are actually learning comprehension. The next group, the next stage of scientific method is proof. Well, after you get proof, you've proven it with a proof. Now it's, well, here's the math and the physics to back it up with the chemistry and the biology. Now, the sequence requires something called checks and balances. And it is. It's checks and balances and logical proof. And this is what writers do when they write a story. This is what scientists do. So the other scientific method is they summarize the entire first steps with intuitive. It's literally, they call it logical intuition, or they call it intuitive mathematics, intuitive logic or mathematical intuition. So it's the same thing. It's just they've condensed it into just intuition. Use your intuition, but they haven't dissected intuition. And then after that, they skip the logic part, which irks me. And what they do is they say, okay, create a hypothesis. No. And if you had studied logic scientists, you would know this. You never create an hypothesis. What you create is a question. Did you not read Socrates? You create a question. Make sure it's the right question. And if you're not going to ask the right question and you make an hypothesis, now you get confirmed bias. So to prevent confirmed bias, you need to ask a question. And you need to pursue the answer to the question. This is why we all need to study logic, including especially scientists. Scientists form an hypothesis, and then they pursue the answer to their hypothesis. They pursue the proof of their hypothesis. This is a logical fallacy because it creates confirmed bias. Now you've got biased scientists. Now we've got a problem, guys. Now, they're logical. When they figure this out, they're going to immediately change it because scientists are logical and they truly do pursue truth. And when they see the logical fallacy in the practice, they're going to upgrade that immediately. So I'm not worried about that. Everybody else needs to get on board with this. You never, ever begin with an hypothesis. An hypothesis is something you use to conclude something that you can't prove. That's what an hypothesis is for. For instance, I just spent the last week researching history, asking the question, what really did happen? So I walked in with that question. What is the truth? And I dove the fuck out of all the archaeological evidence, ripped it apart to try and figure out what the fuck happened. And I will tell you what fucking happened. Darius happened, and then the Roman Empire happened. I need to research where Romulus is from, and I need to research where Darius is from because the time periods are aligned perfectly. And I'm just going to research their location. Notice how I did not make an hypothesis. Now, so I pursued this massive, what the fuck happened? Where's the truth? Why doesn't this make sense? I found that it looks like, well, I don't want to get into that. That's all on my website. Try to Keeling Part 5 if you want to look into that research. Anyway, so when I was all done, I went, all right, I understand the truth. Here's all the archaeological evidence. Here's all the science. And here's all the order of events. Now I can look at the real picture of what happened in history. And I went, oh, these two religions over here are fiction. They were invented by Rome around the 3rd century BCE. Okay, that makes sense. Now I set that over there. So I set that over there. And then I look over here. Hey, this is funny. Ready? I look over here. Darius happened. Darius happened. All right. So I look over here. I'm looking at Ireland. And I'm still trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with the pyramids and what's going on with Stonehenge. And then it just hit me because, hey, a lot of people don't know this, but hey, the Irish myths aren't actually myths. They are referred to as legends. They are referred to as the invasion of Ireland. That's what they're called. And it tells the story of how aliens invaded the world. True story. It's in the myth. You can read it. It's like aliens invaded Earth. And I'm going, okay, all right. Well, they said the alien race of the Tuatha De Danann came down to Ireland and man and the Feuderbulk were here. So there was an alien invasion clearly documented around the 4th and 5th century BCE in Ireland. And that's when I went, hypothesis. Notice I'm at the end of my research. Hypothesis. Stonehenge is a UFO landing pod. That's right. It's a landing pad. I don't know why I have a problem with that word. It's a UFO landing pad. Look at the shape of it. Look at the original design. It is a UFO landing pad. That makes sense. That's my hypothesis, and I'm sticking to it. So there it is. There it is. Look at the crop circles. Put them on top of Stonehenge. They match. So that's and it goes along with the Irish annals. I'm very happy about all of this. So that's an hypothesis. I've got this thing that I can't explain. Now, because my research is over, I can create an hypothesis. Because this is the part that can't be explained yet. Oh, but it can. So that's what I'm doing. I'm explaining it with my hypothesis. That's right. Notice that I didn't put it at the beginning of my research because I didn't want confirmed bias. Questions prevent confirmed bias, which is why Socrates was so fond of the Socratic method, who was really Plato, because Socrates didn't write a damn word. Anyway, the trial and the error. Look at that sequence. The trial and the error, when you get to stage 6, is the mathematical and logical application of checks and balances in scientific method. The problem is modern scientific method lacks all of these things. They just say, well, use intuition, and they don't know what that means. Furthermore, they completely gut logic from the entire equation. Now, they're using math part 2, which is mathematics, but they're not using logic, which is mathematics part 1. And as a result, they're still getting good results because you have math to double check them. But it does waste resources. It does waste money. It does waste time. And you could end up chasing a false hypothesis for the rest of your life without ever being able to prove something. So you might be able to waste your entire life, and it happens, chasing a theory that doesn't exist because you didn't use logic. Really, for a scientist, really dangerous game to be playing. That being said, like, we could save so much money on research if they actually use scientific methods with the ethics. So when you get this all together, it's all done, everything's said, what you are looking at is integrated tuition. Now, when you do this, when you go through scientific method, you are integrating your tuition. That is what you are doing. You are integrating tuition. Now, when you look over at the world of memorization and parroting, there's no comprehension. And that's it right there. They have removed comprehension. They have removed theory, which is understanding. And they have removed, why are you here, Siri? Every time I say theory, my phone goes, yes, Siri, theory, not Siri, theory. Every time. And I say theory a lot. Your name is not Theory, it's Siri. Do I sound like I'm singing all over the place? Does Siri have a problem? And here's the stupid thing. When I say Siri, she doesn't answer. She only answers when I say theory. It's irking me. I'm saying, hey, Siri. Siri, she ignores me. There's nothing. All right, fine. So I'm over here working on my theories. Yes. Ah! You have one job. One job. All right, I'm done now. All right. If there's somebody who's going to go through my videos and they're just going to be like tallying every time I say, they're going to do a compilation. Please do a compilation of every time I say theory. And Siri goes, yes. Every time. Theory, yes. No, you're Siri, not theory. No, your own name. Okay, so when you memorize and you parrot, you have no comprehension, you have no theory, and there is no understanding. Oh, the relationship I have with my phone is just a weird one. I think I'm going to leave that here. Yeah, I'm going to leave it here. The next thing, I ran out of paper. That's what this is. I ran out of paper, and I need to write down like logic. I need to write down math and physics, and I don't have room. So I'm going to just turn my page over. And this irks another part of my brain, but I'll do it anyway. So the next one, scientific method, is when you use math and physics to go through the actual, to support the proof, to provide the evidence of the proof. Okay, well, here's the proof. Let's go ahead and do it now. So if the proof matches up and it all checks out, then you have the ability to grab math and physics and prove it. And then, depending upon how deep or what your theory is, it can go into chemistry and biology, which it does in some cases. So after math and physics, what you end up having, see, this is why I didn't want to turn the page, is because I have a very, okay, so then you get into, quite literally, math and physics. And that teaches you, I don't know, because it's just math and physics all over again. This is where just math and physics keeps repeating themselves. It just showed up. The logical proof is so pure. There's math. Okay, so I just wrote it down. I just wrote it down because I could see it. So I felt like I just copied Mother Nature. Like Mother Nature gave me her math paper and I went, that's what I did. That's it. I copied Mother Nature's math paper. That's what I did. So I can't sit down and explain the theory. Well, I can because I have the logic. So the logic is the theory. But then the math, I just copied Mother Nature's math work. So I just copied it down. Same thing with her physics. But physics makes a lot of sense to me. Math makes sense. Math is the quantifiers. That's all it is. It's the quantifiers. And that's so for me, math and words are identical. They're identical. I studied hieroglyphics. So I studied writing words, linguistics, hieroglyphics, cuneiform, Ogham rooms, Futhark. These are my languages. But I can't speak Spanish fluently. I don't understand my brain sometimes. And then you get over into this space and logic. Woohoo, logic, the science of story. Woohoo, I'm so happy. And then math. Okay, so that's just another form of cuneiform. And it is. Math is just one more, look, hieroglyphics. So that's what I see. But math is not just hieroglyphics, it's also the barometer of balance. It's the balance barometer. That's what I'm going to call it. It's the balance-o-meter. Oh, that's going to be here for a long time, guys. It's the balanceometer. That's what math is. It's a balanceometer. And that's what annoys me is people are like, oh, it's math. Math is just a balanceometer. It's like everyone's walking, all the mathematicians are holding this thermometer, but it's not a thermometer. It's a balance-o-meter. It's a karma meter. It's a karma meter, karmometer. That's what math is. It's a karmometer. And everyone's going, oh, math, it's a fucking karometer, guys. It just does balance. You got a scale and you got 5 and 4. Are they equal? No, it's not true. True in logic means not balanced. True in math means balanced. Truth means matched. Trustworthy means words matches behavior matches name. Trust means matched or knowing it will match. True means matched. If you had studied logic and math, you never would have been lied to. And if you had been lied to, you would have gone, yeah, that's bullshit. And there would have been no trauma. Trauma comes from ignorance of truth. Logic is the sequence of the balance. Math is the quantity or the weight of the balance. That's it. That is it. Calculus measures the change or growth, and trigonometry talks relativity. Logic covers the sequence. Algebra, mathematics, covers the balanceometer with quantity. It's literally just the science of measurement. The reason why I'm going over this with you is because mathematicians don't even know what math does or is. They don't know. I read a whole article on it, and it's like mathematicians still don't know what math is. Okay, guys, this is not hard. It's not science. It's logic, which is science. How can we have an entire... I know how. They didn't study philosophy. Mathematics is measurement. It's all it is. It's just the science of measurement. Logic is the first math, which requires linguistics and logic. As a result, they don't know what math is because they removed logic. Math is the science of measurement. It's all it is. It's measurement. So whenever you touch anything in math, all you are doing is measuring everything. It's literally just measurement. So there's 4 departments and 4 sciences of measurement. You can measure quantity. You can measure change. You can measure relativity. And you can measure validity. This entire process is mathematics. It's the entire science of measurement. All you are doing is measuring truth. But in order to know that, you have to study logic and philosophy, which is why mathematicians really need to be studying logic and philosophy. Or else you end up studying something you know nothing about while you're sitting here going, I don't understand what this actually is, because you haven't studied truth, which is philosophy and logic. So as a result, they're measuring nothing because they don't know logic and truth. Now, their intuition, thank you, Mother Nature, has them working toward that. And they're good. They found their way, which is why their scientific method, it's cat games. We're playing cat games. Here we are. Welcome to 2024 cat games, where my daughter is flinging the ball and the cat is chasing the ball like a dog. And the cat is off. He's running. He's going 15 miles an hour down the other way, and he'll get the ball in just a moment here. And then I'll lose interest, and then my daughter will go pick it up and throw it the other way. So that's cat games of 2024. Every now and then they decide, now is the right time to do this. This cat. And he's up again. He's got, oh, did he grab it this time? And he walks around with balls in his mouth, big ones. We got popcorn balls, like these big. And he's a black cat. So he's just got this ball of yellow. It's great. Boom, and he's off. This cat, I've never had a cat not have a weight problem. This cat does not have a weight problem. It's extraordinary how active he is. All right, now, math. So this is why you need logic. This is what philosophy does. Philosophy shows you what all the academic disciplines do and how they break them all down into stuff. But more importantly, it shows you how to use them in your life, which is why you really needed to learn philosophy. So why is the coaching business toxic? Because it's not teaching you any of the shit. And this is what I've noticed. What you end up with is a lot of students who don't know how to measure their own education or their own needs. And then you have teachers who are so uneducated, irony, who can't even teach the students, are you in the right place? Do you even need this? And this is what a teacher should be doing, but they're not. And what I've noticed with the coaching business is it's just a whole lot of, I'm going to sit down and give you this information of what I know. But what they know is incomplete, gappy, in the wrong order, and they don't know how to teach. When you teach, you have 3 required masteries. 3. The first mastery you require when you teach is the mastery of your vocation. If you don't know what the word vocation means, look it up. Etymology, please. You need to look up, you need to be the master of your own vocation. If you cannot explain it simply, you do not know it well enough. Einstein, you are not a master if you can't do it. That is your vocation. The second thing you need to be a master of is communication. So if you have not mastered the art and science of communication, you are not qualified to teach. Third, education. If you do not know how a subconscious mind thinks and moves, you have no business stepping into one. And that are the 3 masteries, requirements of a teacher. Vocation, communication, education. Now, I throw in there psychology because when you teach, you are fucking around with a subconscious mind. You had better know a subconscious mind if you're going to fuck around with one. And when you do that, you study ethics and you learn something about the subconscious mind. That teaching is toxic for it. That DIY is the only ethical way for integrated tuition for it to take hold. Because when you do for you, you enable. And now you've broken down the person's ability to self-authority, have self-empowerment, have confidence. They lack proof of concept, and now they're dependent upon you. So teaching equals codependency. And if you have a drop of ethics in you, you'll know how fucking toxic that is. So yeah, I have a problem with the coaching business. It's fucking toxic. You should be DIYing everything. Now, I'm going to flip this around. Information and knowledge does not belong to anyone except Mother Nature. When it's good, when it's right, and when it's true, it's hers. This is why scientists discover. We don't invent. We discover. It's not ours. When I discovered my stuff, I had people going, you need patents, you need trademarks, you need patents. Do I? It's Mother Nature. Why am I trademarking Mother Nature's shit? I get naming rights. That's good enough for me. Newton's laws of physics. They're Mother Nature's. He just got to sign it. When you discover it, you get to sign it. So it's called the philosopher's compass. That's what I call it. It's imagination science. That's what I call it. It's Anna's weird shit. I get to sign it. There is no trademark here. It belongs to her, which means where the fuck do I get off selling it to anybody? It's free. So if they are selling you knowledge, they are thieves or it's garbage because it's not coming from Mother Nature. That's why Khan Academy is free, because it's Mother Nature. Now, if you want to get training, that's different. Training is different than teaching. Training is different. Training is different. Now, if you want to sit down with me, completely different topic. But I'm going to make it clear to you, you're here for me. You're not here for the information, because the information is free, which is why anyone who sits around and takes my time, you're here for me. The question is, well, that's going to cost you, because I'm not just going to throw my time around for just anything when you can get it for free on my website. You shouldn't need me. I don't want you to need me. And that's the difference. This is self-empowerment. So DIY is everything. So again, vocation, communication, education, psychology. You want to be a teacher? That's what you got to study. But you can't study it and then go, oh, wow, teaching is toxic because it's codependence. Yeah, they should be doing DIY for self-empowerment to boost their own ego for that second ethic. Oh, shit, teaching is toxic. Yeah, and the information I'm giving them belongs to Mother Nature because I discovered it. So it's not even mine to begin with. So coaching industry is shit. So there you have it. When you decide to choose a teacher, make sure you choose something you need, something you will use, something that's correct, something that's being taught to you in the right sequence, something that is friendly and compatible with your subconscious mind. Make sure you learn how to measure whether or not what you are learning is actually going to be applicable. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you so much. May the kindest of words always find you.